Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh goes viral for saying import the third world, get the third world. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene gives a farewell statement and will not seek re-election. A graph of El Salvador's jail rate going up and their murder rate going down goes viral on social media. BMW Z4 gets a final send-off edition as the production of the car comes to an end. And Hyundai recalls over 85,000 vehicles. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapters, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a Flamethrower. And lastly, try to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Going over to the business part of the podcast, you have BMW Z4 Coupe coming to an end. Rest in peace. It's, well, a fun little sports car, but it gets some final bells and whistles. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Anthony Allianz, who's a writer at motor1.com. And actually do not need to give you a visual disclaimer because vehicle looks pretty good. And he says, quote, "Rest in peace, the BMW Z4 is being discontinued. BMW is sending off its Z4 convertible with a final edition model, which marks an end to production for the G29. A little disappointing they did a cliche color. It seems like every vehicle is either black, white, or silver. I swear they gave those colors for free from the paint manufacturers, but I partially digress. Now, again, credit to Anthony Allianz, who's a writer at motor1.com. He says, quote, "Forward now for the BMW Z4. The German automaker is wrapping up production of its beloved drop top. As the Roadster bows out, BMW produced a very limited edition based on the Z4 M40i, but it's pretty pricey. BMW offers a Z4 Final Edition in one configuration. The only choice a customer has to make is which transmission they want, the 8-speed Septronic, or, like everyone should get, a 6-speed manual transmission, which is also sad that, again, there's so few vehicles out there with the option for the proper transmission, also known as a manual transmission, also known as a stick shift, also known as a third pedal out there these days. It's sad to see one less on the road for consumers next year. So again, you can get this in a manual. If you're going to get this, it is an abomination to get this with an automatic transmission. I don't care how much faster, fancier, better it is for fuel economy. If you actually want to have a connection to a vehicle, you want to have fun, you want to smile ear to ear, get yourself a stick shift vehicle. You cannot, nothing beats that feeling of downshifting into a corner on a track, coming out and shifting out. You can't beat that feeling. But I partially digress. They say, quote, "The manual comes with the edition handle shocker packages, which includes a unique software mapping for the rear dampeners, steering, traction control, and M Sport differential. Under the hood is a turbocharged 3-liter inline-6 engine that produces the same 382 horsepower and 369 foot-pound of torque as any other M40i. It wears a staggered 19-inch front and 20-inch wheels in back, and dual-spoke bicolor 300M wheels," which, yeah, look okay. I mean, nothing to brag about, I would say. Ooh, they got the door sill has some laser engraved. It says Final Edition on the door sill. That's fancy right there. Again, they have to do some things with these final editions. I think is just silly, but again, it's kind of cliche for a reason. I'm sure 5 people will care about that. Well, let's miss the extra piece that's laser engraved Final Edition. But again, they say, quote, "Every Z4 Final Edition wears the same BMW individual frozen black metallic paint with the Shadowline package as standard. This adds gloss black trim to the mirror caps, kidney grille, lower air intake, and exhaust finishers. The Z4 also features a moonlight black top, soft top, and red brake calipers," which, yeah, I was going to say, in terms of contrasting, having a fun little brake caliper that really stands out, yeah, a good combo, red and black. And again, this looks pretty cool. Again, the fact you can get the stick shift, I'm so flabbergasted because, again, it's so rare. It just makes me smile knowing that's an option for the final edition. Again, it's BMW. They should all be only stick shift, but that's just me. Now, they say that, quote, "Inside the car has red contrast stitching on the instrument panel, center console, floor mats, door panels, and M Sport seats, which are trimmed in black Venetian leather and Alcantara. The car is also reminding you that you're driving the Z4 Final Edition with," they wrote it out here, they did, "with unique door sill plates," which which again is literally just it's the regular Z4 door sill plates, but it's just in the middle they just lasered final edition. I don't know. Is it just me, or should it have a little bit more horsepower and oomph under the hood, or something crazy like, I don't know, bolting on even bigger turbos? I don't know. To me, I'm a little disappointed when it's only appearances. Now, I mean, after all, it's what's inside that counts. Now, continuing the article, they say, quote, other standard features include the drive assistance package, a Harman Kardon sound system, which, again, if you have the right vehicle, you're not going to care what kind of speakers you have. You're going to be listening to the glory of the engine and the exhaust note. Now, they also know it'll have a premium package which adds ambient lighting, a heads-up display, and more. BMW will build the Z4 Final Edition from February to April next year in, quote, very small numbers. Regardless of the gearbox, each one will cost $78,675. Now, they did note that includes the $1,775 destination fee. Now, they say the automaker doesn't specify exactly when the Z4 production will end. The Toyota Supra, which is the same car with a twist, ends production next March. The Japanese automaker has already announced it'll launch a successor, but BMW hasn't announced anything about the fourth generation Z4, which, yeah, spoiler, they're both being, basically, both manufactured in a third-party plant over in, I believe, just like Glock, Austria. And yeah, the Supra, that's why when you pop the hood on the Supra, you see a myriad of BMW parts and components because, yeah, it's a dressed up BMW. And again, it's sad that in terms of consumer sentiment or consumer preferences, the biggest category in the United States for many years has been the, cliche, big, expensive SUVs, which good for the company, very profitable. Again, BMW is known for fun sports cars. And I do wonder, will they have a successor? A lot of companies are struggling to sell sports cars. I mean, it hurts to know that the Ford Mustang E-Mach, that bastardization EV SUV, is selling in greater quantity numbers than the original Ford Mustang, America's pony car. Granted, Ford is losing about $48,000 to $52,000 in every EV sold, so maybe that'll come to an end. But in terms of where the consumers are going, they're getting a lot of consumers like their trucks, their SUVs, sports cars, especially in a high interest rate and tough economy. They're hard to sell. Now, again, automakers are also thinking, decade out in terms of their game plan. It takes a lot of time to, retool manufacturing plants, to come up with new. I mean, it's a whole ordeal to make a new vehicle. Very complex, very expensive. I'm hoping they see some optimistic things, on the horizon in the future. They continue to make these small, fun sports cars. And again, that's the heart of BMW. But I don't know. You also have another BMW, some BMW executives, stressing how important EVs are, even though they don't make profit on them. So there's a chance that they might actually not replace this. And especially because, I mean, again, Toyota said the Supra is going to be made in-house, apparently, with a V8, which would be awesome. And again, that's one of the reasons you get, again, kind of like when you go to Costco and you get more units, it's lower price per unit. This third-party manufacturer, not Meguiar, is it Meguiar? In Austria, making these things, again, the lower number of units, the more it is per unit, which again makes it potentially prohibitively expensive for consumers. It'll be interesting to see, again, does it also become cost prohibitive to do it as well, because you're going to have to pay more for all the components. But let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the cultural part podcast, so Matt Walsh going viral for saying import third world, get it third world. Now, this actually posted thanks to his blog on X, which is hashtag Matt Walsh Show. And he says, quote, we need to protect our culture. Here's Matt Walsh in his log cabin-esque studio. His cliche flannel shirt right there. Let's see what he has to say.
This is why we say import the third world, become the
Sorry about that. Technical issues.
This is why we say import the third world, become the third world. Because the thing that nobody wants to say is that the reason why third world countries are the way they are is because third world people are the way they are. Okay, at the end of the day, your country is a reflection of its people. Every country is, when it comes down to it. Somalia is totally dysfunctional and corrupt because scam and frauds, piracy, this is part of the lifestyle, part of the culture. Bring it over here, you get the same stuff.
Which is ridiculous. When you look at Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's a great, safe place to live. No corruption, no scams, no nothing. That's dark humor. It's a joke because Yeah, it turns out they laundered and stole over 100, what was it, $50+ million? Where, again, the Somalian refugees came here, they would claim they'd have a certain number of family members, the government gave them a lot of handouts, and spoil it, they didn't have it. There's a lot of coordination for that big scam. That's one of many. And I don't think it's always true in terms of, third world. Now, I'm a little biased because, well, my family came from the third world, debatably, Cuba, which, although I joke that my mom escaped Cuba to go to the one place on the planet worse than communism in Cuba when Fidel took over. Yes, you guessed it, Southside Detroit, which, yeah, is actually a much more dangerous, terrible place than the communist hellhole of Cuba. It's hard to say which one is worse in terms of on a day-to-day basis. But again, there's a difference, and again, it doesn't happen every time. Back in the day, 60s to 70s, there's a lot more cultural assimilation. And a good example being, again, anecdotal, my family. You'll never see a Cuban with a Cuban flag in America. Partially because the country sucks. They escaped it for a reason. It's communist hellhole, no job, all the businesses left, government's evil, corrupt. And yeah, thank God we're in America. And I know what you're thinking. No, my family did not swim here. I actually came here on an airplane. One of the last ones that came out of the country. And it's an instance where, again, came to America, learned the language, learned the culture, learned the importance of the founding fathers, the whole bedrock of the founding of America, learned why America is the best country on the planet, learned English. Now, granted, the joke might, I'll beat the comments. Yes, they actually did learn English, and they speak 1,000 times better than myself. English is actually my first language. I just speak faster than Ben Shapiro and stutter more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. But I have a theory. When I first started the show, no one tuned in, had no subscribers, well, maybe 3 from my family. And again, I spoke terribly. But as I got more subscribers, I've been slightly better at speaking, which leads to my theory. The more people that click that button, the better I'll get at speaking and someday make it through an entire episode perfectly, articulately, and awesomely. So again, take the time to click that subscribe button and tell your friends and tell your enemies. Your enemies might be so enamored and impressed by your choice in podcast material, they then become your best friends. Or they find my face so visually disgusting and my content so terrible that they become greater enemies. It becomes a physical altercation, so maybe I shouldn't recommend it. Either way, make for a funny story. So tell your friends and your enemies about the Topping Show and click that subscribe button. Now, getting back to the point I had here, talking about importing third world, getting third world, there's been a huge cultural and political shift in terms of importing people to the United States, both legally and illegally, with massive government handouts. That wasn't the year 100 years ago. I would argue not even 40, 50 years ago. Now we see, again, this is based on averages. Not every single time it's going to happen. But if you look at the cost to the taxpayer in terms of when people come to the United States, Somalians are in the top most costly. It's about $1.1 million per Somalian. Again, that is an average. Some of them will take more government handouts. Some of them will take less. Some of them will actually, make a profit into the point where they're working and then they're giving tax money back to the United States. Well, again, that does happen as well. But in terms of, cultural decay, not assimilating to the culture of America, it's not just Somalians. Matt Walsh, he seems to very much focus on the Islamic community and the Somali community. There's also everyone in the world comes to the United States, some more often than others. You also have Chinese Americans, Indian Americans. So it's one of those things where I always tell folks, I don't really care where you come from, as long as you come here legally and you really learn what made America great. What is the culture of the United States, and become a contributing member of society. It's back in the day, that was the American dream. Again, we've seen a huge cultural shift where, again, a lot of people aren't learning the language. A lot of them are not assimilating. The dumbest, most asinine thing is they'll actually wave their country's own flag, which again, it's always even more hilarious when it's the flag of Mexico, one of the most corrupt third world countries on the planet. It's like, you are so proud of that country. Why did you come here? To take a job and then send you a lot of your money back? Maybe another topic for another time, perhaps, in terms of politically how much we should tax an amount, in terms of the remittance tax. Again, it doesn't happen every single time, but Matt Walsh is highlighting an issue. There are some places, especially in very high density places, where, again, they're coming here, but they're not assimilating. Maybe they're not getting that information. And again, some is legal, some is illegal immigration. And some of these places are decaying. Now, there are some places that it's actually happening natively with people that are born here, like San Francisco, which also, I would argue, that highlights more the government ineptitudes and evil of the government that incentivizes cultural and political decay, so more people are, broke and dependent on the government system and the government handouts. Now, this went very viral, got 12.3 million views and 38,000 likes, which is, again, quite a few to say the least. This is, I think, one of the top 5 posts that Matt Walsh has had in 2025. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Product of Black History. That's not it. product of Black history. That's not the number one by. I follow him. That's the number one comment in terms of it showing up on the timeline, but it's not the number one by likes. That's a contrarian statement though, so like it's a little bit boring when you're in an echo chamber, so I try to read as many opinions as possible. So he says, quote, scam, fraud, and piracy, Enron, WorldCom, Lehman Brothers, Theranos, Waste Management, Health South, Trump Foundation, Trump University, Bernie Madoff, Jordan Belfort, Ivan Bosky, Airborne, Lobclaws, Takeda, Purdue Pharma, T-Mobile, Comcast, AT&T, Johnson Johnson, Bank of America, just a few American companies and individuals that fit the Somali narrative. Now, again, that's a contrarian statement that did get 3 likes. We also have Emily Hill, who says just 2 options. And she has a tweet from White Stag, who says, quote, white people have a simple choice to make. 1, be conquered, enslaved. Again, try to keep this moderately family friendly. So cover your kids' ears if you have children listening. Again, she says 1, conquered, be enslaved, raped, genocide while being called racist, or 2, reclaim our nations and our dignity while being called racist. That simple gained 34 likes. She also has a quote from Joyce, who says, diversity isn't our strength. It lowers your wages, marginalizes your culture, increases your crime, fills your hospitals, occupies your housing, ruins your schools, consumes your taxes, tightens your laws, restricts your freedoms, endangers your children, and calls you racist. Gained 40 likes. Dr. Simon Goddick says, quote, I think actually this is the number one contrarian statement. Getting credit to just Dr. Simon Goddick, who says, quote, tell me, Matt Walsh, which country has produced the most pornography, trafficked the most children, started the most wars of aggression over the last couple decades? And most importantly, what does it tell us about our own country's culture? Getting 2.7 thousand likes. Now, again, they're talking about governments in this case, which the U.S. government, a lot of bad Democrats, a lot of bad Republicans. I don't know. I think a majority, especially these days, I think a majority of Americans are against some of these, I would argue, pointless wars that we've had overseas. And the average American is very much the antithesis. They hate all those things. Well, I should take it back. Many Americans, especially California, where the industry is based, they're not. I guess many Americans do appreciate adult content, but in terms of hurting kids, I don't know anyone who agrees with that part. Now, again, he got 2.7 thousand likes. I wonder if he's ratioed. I am what I am says certainly not Brazil, getting 63 likes. America First says the United States, no question, is ran by evil people. Now which group now he says, now which group within the United States perpetuates all these things, getting 10 likes. See here? Then half the comments are just saying the Jews. Lesnar says he's talking about society, not politicians, getting 33 likes. Studio Democrato says, being from Brazil, what's your point? Getting 30 likes. Dan says, which country does everyone want to migrate to? Getting 14 likes. Ed Kill says, historically, the United States is nowhere near the top degenerate empires to ever exist. Nazi Germany, Britain, Spain, Mao's China, among others, take the cake. If you're comparing backwater countries to an empire, it's like an apple to oranges, getting 58 likes. Now going back to the main comment section, Tony Rigatoni. I thought it was a TV show guy. Yeah, isn't Tony Rigatoni? Is that the Sopranos guy? I don't know. Either way, he says, quote, we are still doing this thing where we are still doing this thing where we are using stand-ins for racial designations. What race is first world persons? Getting 853 likes. Tess Electrician says, meanwhile, our current culture is Representative Randy Fine eating, well, it's got to be AI, eating chicken? The yarmulke, getting 845 likes. Posing Patton says, quote, that's anti-Semitic, getting 248 likes. Canadite says this thing was in charge of nuclear power, getting 18 likes, which, yeah, it was the cross-dresser employed by the Biden-Harris administration who stole women's underwear from airports. Yeah, he was in charge of nuclear power. Let's see here. Someone by the name of that Nicker says you work for Ben Shapiro. That got 990 likes. Also have Real Human. I don't know, it's a little sus, as the youth might say, suspicious, because that takes too long to say, of course. Real Human, that's just what a computer would say. Nevertheless, this alleged Real Human says, quote, it's funny because years ago, you were calling us all white supremacists for saying this, getting 1,000 likes. Jay says, this is a very common racist theme. When people say what they think, they make a valid point, but it's all actually saying I'm racist. American culture is that of a melting pot. No one race has dibs on America. White culture was not the first culture here. They got 435 likes. The first comment, or one of the first comments to him is, you better have a better argument than your racist, game 25 likes. Tank says you're racist. Never was, never will be an argument. Gave 45 likes. Well, in terms of who founded the United States, that was pretty racially biased towards Europeans or white folks. The SARS says your culture is just racism and PDFs. Matt gave 58 likes. Thoth, unique name. So I can't diss too much. Lord knows I have a weird name. Says we need to protect it from what you work for. It's a looks like a caricature of a Jewish person. Gave 435 likes. Jeez. Fox has it's a Simpsons meme where someone has a gun pointed up to someone, forcing him to speak, with Ben Shapiro being the guy with the gun behind him. And it says Matt says import third world to get the third world. And the guy behind him pointing the gun at him is Ben Shapiro, saying, quote, "That's right, Goy. Just don't mention who's responsible for it." Gained 391 likes. Really Cross says we need to find out who killed Charlie. Gained 101 likes. Western Revisionist getting you work for man actively trying to destroy it. Gained 73 likes. Canitate says this man dressed as a woman was responsible for the health of the Americas. Yeah, she also had 5 chins, I think. Rachel Levine, I think, getting 65 likes. A lot of people have cartoons of Ben Shapiro treating Matt Walsh like a dog, getting about 800 likes. King Milk says, our culture, you look like a kid who never went through puberty wearing a fake beard for a class play, getting 230 likes. I think this might be a little more ratio than actually praising in terms of Matt Walsh. Nick says, bro, you are for the people that are trying to destroy it, in 366 likes. Which again, I don't think it's race, it's about culture and assimilation. Again, a long time, again, as I said earlier, if everyone just, came to the United States and read the values of the founding fathers, what they believed in, what our country stood for, I think there'd be dramatically less conflict. And I think our country would be in a better place. But again, it's one of those things where even in the public school system, a lot of Americans are no longer understanding what is the United States, what made the United States exceptional and great. So it's interesting to see Matt Walsh get nearly, I'd say mostly ratioed in this, but again, most of them are critiquing him for still working for Ben Shapiro. Matt Walsh would make so much more of an impact in the world. I think he'd actually make more money if he were to quit the Daily Wire and go independent. He'd have a lot more freedom to what he wants to say, of course. It would be a little more work, obviously. He'd have to hire a producer or an audio engineer, a couple of folks help him out. But again, he'd have a lot more flexibility. I think he'd be more well respected, and I think he'd be able to do more journalism that he agrees with. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene giving a tweet as she says she will no longer seek re-election. Now, this brought to us thanks to MTG, and she says, quote, "Everyone just runs their mouths, but results are the only thing that matter to the American people. Smears, lies, attacks, and name-calling is childish behavior, divisive, and bad for our country. Memes and red meat rants do nothing." I think she meant memes and red meat rants. I have to check the Urban Dictionary for that one. She says, actions speak louder than words. Be quiet, be humble, fix the real problems that are crushing Americans, not foreign countries' problems, not the donors' problems. The American people's problem is both political parties created and dumped on the American people. They got 1.1 million views and 27,000 likes, and she, a couple days ago said she will not seek re-election. Now, a lot of people speculating, is this because she said she didn't want to have, the battered wife syndrome. She didn't want to be, the metaphor she used, I think, was in poor taste. And again, she's been verbally sparring with Donald Trump, trying to get some things done. There's some speculation that thinks maybe she's not going to seek re-election. She'll maybe long-term try to make a presidential run, try to go for something higher like a VP. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure about the mass appeal in terms of, is there enough mass across the United States support for her to achieve even higher political office? And this is one of her most viral tweets the whole year. Again, 1 million views, 27,000 likes. I suspect it'll be, like most of her statements, will probably be about 50-50 in terms of, 50% appreciate what she says, 50% ratio her or critique it. But let's dive in the comments. The first one comes to us thanks to Jay, who says, quote, says the one woman who ran her mouth so much, she quit after being dumped by the base, getting 143 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, Whereas your attempts to play the victim, you came out against mass deportations. You did so because they adversely affect your construction business. You're a traitor, and that's all you ever be. Getting 1,000 likes, which, yeah. A lot of people were respecting the fact that her family was very much an entrepreneurship family. But yeah, again, her not being like all in on deportations, which was one of the most hot topics of the last presidential election. One of the top things that Americans voted for was, deportations of the people who came here illegally. Her flipping on that did not help her. Now, Laurel Loomer says, quote, "Where are your results? You don't have any. You also lied and smeared people to get ahead. You lied about me when President Trump hired me to work his campaign. My actions show that I was, and I still am, the president's strongest allies, and I worked very hard to expose plots against him throughout the election. You didn't choose to be quiet. Instead, you publicly smeared me. You ran to the New York Times. You worked to undermine my job. You then spread rumors about me with no evidence. You hired a foreigner accused of being a PDF to work for you, and you let him live inside your home where he harassed me and even doxed my address publicly. Shortly after, I was swatted multiple times. Why did you do that to me? And why are you going to participate? When are you going to practice what you preach?" They got 4.5 thousand likes. Rick Suit, who, again, excellent fashion, he suits up, obviously. He says, quote, "Well, it's just categorically false to say that memes do nothing. You can argue about the degree of their utility, but to claim they do nothing is absurdity. At the bare minimum, they serve to entertain and help ideas spread. That's at least something." And he says also, one of her tweets, I suspect. And yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene gave me a tweet in 2021, which, exactly. Again, memes, it's crazy to think what once was eloquent political debates of ideals and how we fix our country now is devolving to memes, which, yeah, maybe we're just devolving. We're going to become the Egyptians with hieroglyphs, and emojis will be the next presidential debate. You just tweet emojis to each other. It's not out of the realm of possibility. You also have, what is this? The Cackled Highest, who says ban APAC, getting 125 likes. Crazy Flicks says, "They just don't want you to know that 89% of Jeffrey Epstein's political donations went to Democrats and 0% went to Donald Trump," getting 152 likes. Crazy Flicks also has a tweet from Joy Mariano. It says, quote, "Trump said nothing about killing Democrats. He said the people guilty of treason and sedition should be hung. Democrats thought he was referring to them only because they're guilty of treason and sedition. He literally never mentioned the word Democrats." I got 361 likes. Joshua Rupert says, "Please keep exposing President Trump and what he's doing for Israel," getting 134 likes. Billy Bob says, "This is you now," getting 290 likes. It looks like a scary AI generated picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Hillary Clinton merged into one, which, geez Louise. Although I should mention for the record, Hillary Clinton is a very beautiful, intelligent woman, has not had a disproportionate amount of people commit suicide around her, like 28 plus people. And I don't own any rope, and I plan to live a long, healthy lifestyle. Just wanted to throw those things out there. Throw down, you also have Jason Smith, who says, quote, it's hard to argue numbers. Numbers don't lie, and they surely don't care about your feelings." And it says net worth in 2021 of Marjorie Taylor Greene was $700,000. Net worth in 2025 is $25 million, a 3,471% increase in personal wealth, getting 457 likes. Jose Wales says, "Well said," and it's a screenshot of Marjorie Taylor Greene getting a 1% Liberty score, getting 46 likes. Joey FAFO, it's the meme of Sydney Sweeney. Marjorie Taylor Greene is interviewing her in this meme setup. It says, "Trump is mean. The ladies in The View love me. I'm resigning from Congress." And Sydney Sweeney just gives her that I don't give a shit look, getting 118 likes. D has an article from The Independent that says Marjorie Taylor Greene up 142% in stocks she bought days before ICE awarded company massive contract, getting 148 likes. Let's see. The Angry Alaskan says Massey Green 2028. And it's a meme with Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene pointing at the total number of votes for the Epstein files to be released, getting 29 likes. I also have America Only saying, quote, "Keep up the good work, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We stand with you no matter what path you decide to take. Thank you for truly putting America first." There's a picture of her from APAC Tracker where they say that she has received $0 from APAC, getting 284 likes. Which, again, that is very unique. I believe it's only 2 or 3 representatives. So, let's see. You also have Vince Langman saying you accomplished absolutely nothing in 5 years except make yourself personally extremely wealthy, getting 561 likes. Bernice Mountain of Dogs on X says, quote, oh, yeah, that's a long name. Says the woman who claimed to be America First is it America First to quit your constituents midterm and reduce the slim majority you have in the House even further? throw MAGA under the bus and call them destructionists while aligning with McCarthy to get committee assignments, make public displays of support for J6ers for publicity and to enlarge your political profile while doing nothing substantial to help them, go on a liberal media tour, criticize Trump deportation policies, promote extending Obamacare, praise Pelosi's incredible career, spend all the time during the government shutdown criticizing Republican colleagues in Congress for not solving the problems. You're one of the most political creatures in the political industrial complex, and you claim you voluntarily left. No one believes that for a second, and you would never left the political industry complex if you were sure about receiving Trump's endorsement for senator or governor. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. Getting 751 likes. Yeah, because Trump is going to primary her. He's going to endorse someone to primary her. A lot of people making fun of her for making fun of memes. Let's see. Gina Millen says, MTG's America First is resigning from Congress to hand the GOP a 2-vote majority, letting Massey and Paul sabotage Trump, throwing Epstein's victims under the bus, and walking away with her pension while pretending she cares about anything but herself. Whatever you say, bleach box. I got 643 likes. I mean, she's very politically hungry. I don't think she's going to just stop and go back to construction full time. The only question is, where is she going to try to go politically? How many people will support her? But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have a graph of El Salvador's jail rate going up, their murder rate going down, going viral on social media. Now, this is after the, it's a nice way of saying moronic, mentally vacuous mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, saying, well, jails don't work. That's not going to solve the problem with crime. It's racist. Which turns out, yeah, that was a pretty stupid thing to say, because arresting bad guys so they're not in the street hurting and murdering people actually is a great way to solve crime. Actually, the way you solve crime, and makes everyone on the street safer. Now, this is credited to End Wokeness, who says, again, he's quoting Mayor Brandon Johnson, you can't jail your way out of crime. And then End Wokeness says, quote, you literally can, just ask El Salvador. And here you see the jail rate and the murder rate. Looks like 2015, first time it goes down. Then 2020, exponentially. Yeah, jail rate goes up, murder rate goes down to damn near zero. They got 15 million views and 34,000 likes. Again, this infographic is, murder rate versus incarceration rate in El Salvador, year 2000 to year 2024. And yeah, the biggest down is yep, after you start throwing bad guys in jail. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Matt Van Swol, who says, quote, seems like it'd be worth a try. Let's pass a 3-law strike in every state. Sorry, 3-strike law in every state. 1.4 thousand likes for that baseball metaphor. I know the sports balls, not really, that was a joke. But yeah, that used to be like that. There was bipartisan support, especially in the 90s, where yeah, everyone said, you know what, we have a 3-strike policy. You get in trouble 3 times to the law, we're gonna go to jail for a long time. That would make places like Chicago safe. Obviously, they'll never do it. You also have Elon Musk says, let's try it, getting 5.6 thousand likes. Gunther Eagleman says, prisons work, getting 449 likes, 450 likes now. Let's see. David Santa Clara says, quote, we need to lock up violent criminals, my replies. He's 762 likes. Paul Zupa says, it's not a new or radical concept, and it always worked. 115, 117 likes, which, yeah. Again, there are also places like, Chicago, where they'll let that piece of shit out of jail 72 times so he can set a girl on fire for doing nothing to him. Yeah, we need to get tough on crime in the United States. I'm pretty pessimistic if they ever will, but we need to. You also have Andrea Elliott, poor gal, believes in freedom, but he's born in Canada. Imagine a country where you can't have a gun, can't defend yourself, can't have freedom of speech. America and freedom, right there, so close. But nevertheless, he has a graph of all the latest, most high-profile people who murdered folks. And yeah, girl that set on fire, he was the perpetrator who did that, was arrested 72 times. Another white gal was murdered. He was arrested 45 times. Another one, piece of shit, was arrested 39 times. Another one, he was arrested 33 times. And 17 times, very famously, Ukrainian refugee came to the United States for safety. And yeah, her life was extinguished. She was murdered on public transport by a guy who's let out of jail 17 times by activist, leftist, radical judges. That got 168 likes, and it says, should these judges be removed? Hell yeah. These judges should be liable. It's one of those things where it's intentional. I mean, if you give someone a second chance, depending on the severity of the crime, I agree with that. Again, it depends on the severity of the crime. But when you're at 72 times, 45 times, arrested 39 times, and they're still on the streets, why? What is the upside of society? It literally just makes all society worse for all the innocent people. It's time to put them in jail for decades long, if not permanent. If not, solve the problem completely, depending on the severity of their crimes, sign the death penalty. Again, that's very rare in the United States, and again, that's by a state-by-state basis. It's more recent that we are starting to use the death penalty for non-murder crimes, such as hurting a child in the worst possible way. Try to keep this moderately family-friendly. There are some states that are giving the judges the option in which they could assign the death penalty for human scum who hurt children in the worst possible way, which I say, yes, absolutely, the judges should have that option. Especially when you look at the rate in which they will commit those crimes again. The odds are more than zero. That's not acceptable to me. The propensity that's going to happen again is too high. We can't risk that as society. They should be jailed forever, if not perished. Now, scrolling down, you also have Nevada Liberty, 1864. So Brandon Johnson says, you can't jail your way out of crime. And El Salvador president says, want to bet? Getting 457 likes. Tom Farish says, quote, it turns out accountability and consequences are some things that work quite well. Who would have seen that coming? Getting 294 likes. Now, this is pretty accurate. Isaac says, but more racism. You see a liberal judge, a soldier on its knees trying to block something. On the opposite side of the screen is a bunch of knives and grenades labeled criminals with too many chances, about to hurt innocent victims. And the liberal judges do nothing to stop it. Getting 293 likes, which I actually think it's worse than that. If anything, it's almost as if the judges are pouring the bucket of knives and grenades onto the innocent victims. They're letting them out time and time and time again. It's worse than that, actually. Time again. 72 times in that one case. George Orwell says, imagine that. Arresting criminals reduces crime. What genius figured this out? Getting 238 likes. Which, one of the most brilliant authors in history. It's kind of sad how governments are more evil than in his novel, 1984, or the easier to read, more digestible book in terms of words as well as page number, George Orwell's Animal Farm. Bill Mitchell also says, I thought jail exists to stop crime. Yep, getting 47 likes. Isaac also says it comes down to impeaching these corrupt judges who let criminals out. Agree. He has a quote from Naib Boukle, who says, if you cannot impeach corrupt judges, you cannot fix a country. They will form our cartel, a judicial dictatorship, and block all reform, protecting the systematic corruption that put them in their seats, getting 339 likes. God and Country says the only way to stop America from being destroyed is to arrest the ones destroying it, getting 175 likes. A lot of people referencing El Salvador and how they've turned their country around, which, again, was thought to be impossible. Let's see here. Trump's golden arrow says, lock them up and throw away the key, getting 14 likes. DB says, of course you can. Put criminals in prison and get less crime. People say that prison reduces the chance of rehabilitation. Who cares? If they commit another crime, put them back in. Which, that's another interesting debate of people wondering what's the point of prison. A lot of people saying it's to rehabilitate them and help them get, turn their life around. The very first purpose of prison is to punish. Is to literally give them a huge negative incentive to not do it again, whatever it is, and to protect the people, the innocent, by removing them from society. Again, it would be nice if they would actually reform their life choices and change. Some of them do. Depending on the severity of crime, the type of propensity they won't be reformed, and I would argue should be let back on the streets. But again, the main purpose is to punish and then protect the innocent by removing them from society. It's not for rehabilitation. Now, that can be part of the process. I hope they turn things around. But again, that's not the main purpose of prison or jail. Salty says, turns out the solution wasn't complicated, just unpopular with criminals and Democrats, getting 76 likes. Yep. Sweet Genius says, the incarcerations lag the falling number. Not sure what the smoking gun is, you think. Gives it getting 72 likes. Uncharted Trader says, the murder rate went down quickly because the president put it on national TV that they would be hunting for gang members. So the gang members went into hiding for a while, which automatically dropped the murder rate. Eventually, the capturing started, getting 24 likes. Zuby says you can just do things, getting 536 likes. Again, this is, an easy solution. Get rid of these corrupt activist judges, actually keep people in jail. Unfortunately, I am pretty pessimistic in terms of I don't think it'll actually happen, but let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Hyundai recalling over 85,000 vehicles because, of a fuel tank leak. Now, this brought to us thanks to USA Today, specifically Greta Cross, who's right over there. And they say, quote, Hyundai recalls over 85,000 vehicles due to a fuel tank leak. See the models listed below. They say indications of the fuel tank leak include a pop noise from the vehicle's rear, illumination of the check engine light, and the vehicle will not start or stop or has a fuel odor, which, yeah, those are not ideal. Now, they say, quote, Hyundai's recalled more than 85,000 Sonata vehicles due to the potential fuel tank leak that could melt the tank. Whoops. Hyundai Motor America issued a recall for 85,043 2020 to 2023 Sonatas. The sedans might have a damaged check valve, which allows air into the fuel tank, causing it to expand and contact hot exhaust components, according to the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration. This reaction can cause the tank to melt. Well, the upside is the rate at which this happens is low. Hyundai estimates about 1% of manufactured vehicles have that defect, according to the report. They note that as of November 18th, Hyundai was aware of 7 Sonata vehicles that reported a fuel tank leak in the US and Canada, but no crashes, injuries, or fatalities have been reported. They say, again, these are recall effects 2020 to 2023 Sonatas manufactured between 2019 and 2023. They say to go to your local Hyundai dealership where a technician will perform a free check and repair if needed for free as well. They note that Kia had a similar recall, which not too surprised because Hyundai and Kia, same company, just like how General Motors owns Cadillac, Buick, GMC, and Chevy. But again, not ideal in terms of, Hyundai and Kia for decades were known for low-cost Korean vehicles. They've made leaps and bounds in terms of the strides to improve the company's image as well as the quality of the vehicles. And most Americans are okay with recalls that if it's not the drivetrain or something like, a loose piece of trim or something like that, where not detrimental. Safety recalls is another thing, and this is one where, again, the risk is low, and thankfully no one's been hurt, so they did the right thing. They got ahead of the issue in terms of the recall. But again, this is safety related, and it's catching the headlines, kind of damaging the brand reputation. Gotta say, Hyundai, Kia, you're certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone, everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.